Well, welcome everybody to our online program on addiction and recovery from the Sunshine Coast Health Centre up here in Powell River, BC. And we've been talking about Rob Ford. Well, everyone's been talking about Rob Ford, but particularly an article that showed up in the Star about what would rehab be like if Rob Ford were actually to go to rehab. And it presented this kind of rehab that we might see, for example, if we watch Michael Keaton in Clean and Sober, or even Sandra Bullock in 28 Days. This kind of idea that it is the responsibility of the addiction treatment center to take control of the addict, because the addict is lost control. She lies a lot, give him an inch, she'll take him out. All of these kinds of ideas that somehow by virtue of having an addiction, you share, they're all selfish, they're all in denial, etc., etc. But maybe there is another way of treating, one based on, science and ethics. And I'm thinking one of the things that they said in the article was that, the addicts, his best thinking got him to where he is, and really he has to, if he's going to stay in treatment, he's going to have to follow instruction. Right? These comments that came from the article, and I'm thinking, a lot of therapists today who are highly trained would probably say that, in fact, Rob Ford or anybody else, any other client, was in fact the author of his or her life. Right? There's a principle in healthcare code of ethics called autonomy, and it is actually the therapist's ethical duty to promote autonomy in the client. So it is going to be the client who's making decisions and the client who takes control of his life. Right? And this is a very big thing in the ethics code. And there's a very powerful form of psychology called existential humanistic psychology, and it actually makes the case that every human being is the author of his or her life. And in fact, that's the duty of the human being, is to make decisions that will dictate the kind of life that they get, given, of course, limitations and societal pressures and various other things that go on. Maybe, how intelligent they are or how not, or maybe, I would like to be a professional hockey player, but it was pretty obvious to me when I was not that old that this was never going to happen. I just didn't have the physical abilities to do this, not enough hand-eye coordination, and etc. So given all of these pressures and all of these limitations, to still make decisions that will dictate the kind of life I'm going to live. And that's what the therapist would be promoting, is this idea of autonomy. Now, it's pretty hard to figure out how you're going to promote autonomy if you're going to order someone around and you think they're completely incapable of making rational decisions. Their best thinking got them to where they are. But I think in most modern therapies that, with people, counselors have advanced degrees in psychology, that they would actually work with Rob Ford or whoever else, and to help that person understand how he can take control of his life, how he can be true to himself, and how he could follow his own values or her own values. All of these things, I think, are fundamental to good quality therapy. And so, again, just to compare it to this Toronto Star article and what rehab would be like, and yet maybe not so. That's not a broad brush. We're not going to paint everybody with the same strokes. There are other forms of therapy that are very valid and very good. Anyway, we'll be back next time with another comment on this. What would therapy like if Rob Ford were to enter rehab?